You've heard the startup success stories, but you haven't heard this. What if success as a founder has nothing to do with hitting $1 million in revenue and everything to do with surviving the mental, emotional, and spiritual toll this journey takes? Today, we're talking with someone who's lived that. This isn't another how I scaled story. This is what it costs to scale.
Your company is going to grow as much as your mindset is growing, period. There's nothing else. We were set to sign the LOI, the letter of intent. It took me only 2 to 3 hours to bring myself again together and look at it with a different perspective. I said, okay, I have an LOI. Yes, it's not signed. Let me take that LOI and go and talk to other 5 companies if I could and shop around. Talk to my friends, again, telling them, hey, I have someone who is interested. You know someone who also could be interested in buying our company.
The difference between collapse and comeback? Just one thing.
Entrepreneurship starts from within. They have to do certain conditioning, physical, mental, emotional, and so many other things, even to the extent that they need to go and talk to their family. I did not do it by myself. I had to call for help. And this is, I would say, number one mistake that many entrepreneurs do. They either forget or they feel that, no, it's a sign of weakness to ask for help.
This is the truth you won't hear in startup blogs, and it might be the only thing that saves you. So here's a question for you. What if success as a founder has nothing to do with hitting $1 million in revenue and everything to do with surviving the mental, emotional, and spiritual toll this journey takes? Today, we're talking with someone who's lived that. Mohamed Ahmed is here to share the raw truth you won't find in startup blogs or pitch decks. So nice to have you here, Mohamed.
Thank you very much, Mike. It's a pleasure to be with you.
So you wrote a book called The Inside Out Entrepreneur. And in that book, you say that success isn't just surviving the startup, it's surviving yourself. And I love that quote. What made you realize that?
It's actually the journey, what I went through in that journey. It was around 5 years journey for that startup, from just an idea all the way to selling the company. And even though I studied everything that I could about business, marketing, sales, how to fundraise, but you know what? In the first 2 years, I made all the mistakes that everyone was telling me not to do. And there was that inflection point that I reached, and I realized that I'm doing all those mistakes for some reason. And that reason actually is simply that I was out of balance. I had the wrong perspective about almost everything. And at that point, I realized that, look, it's not about, achieving, let's say, $1 billion exit or achieving certain business metrics. Those are important. You need to do that. You're building business at the end of the day. But there's a prerequisite for that. You're not going to achieve any of that unless your mind actually and your mindset is adapted to all of this. And there's something that I believe in, which is your company is going to grow as much as your mindset is growing, period. There's nothing else. If you're still in a limited mindset, if you're still in a mindset that is not going to allow you to look at things differently and expand your horizon and seize the opportunities, and see them in all the difficulties and challenges that you face, you have almost zero chance to go somewhere.
That mindset comment is very, very true. If you ask me, I teach that to my clients all the time, that if you believe that you can't work less than 100 hours a week, then you're not going to work less than 100 hours a week. But if you believe you can get that under control, you will. I think people forget how powerful mindset actually is when it comes to solving problems. And I've talked to so many people over the past 2 years on the show, and one big theme is kind of like never give up. And that's a mindset issue. You're faced with adversity. It's really easy to throw in the towel, but it's not that easy to keep pushing and go and chase the goal, right? So how does chasing traditional startup wins like revenue, user growth, et cetera, actually hurt founders?
Now, actually, let me share a story or 2 stories that to clarify the mindset and how that is going to impact your startup and how things can run. At the beginning of my journey, just a few months, starting as a full-time, I raised a decent amount of money, and we worked on our product for almost 6 months. We were ready to demonstrate the product. We went to a big conference, and we were just in that one day. It was really sunny, nice morning in New Orleans. And I got an email from AWS telling us, you owe us $65,000. And I was in shock for a couple of reasons. First, I checked our account 3 weeks ago, and we had almost more than $40,000 or $50,000 credit with AWS. In 3 weeks, we burned through that credit, and even we consumed more to the extent that we basically we owe them $65,000. And by the way, back then I had only $75,000 in the bank. That's it. So I said, we're going to go bankrupt. And this was one of the biggest events or early big events that I went through. And I thought the company is going to shut down. And here's what happened, because I was not mentally ready and I did not have the right perspective about those events. It took me 4 weeks actually to recover. Now, this is, no version 1.2, 1.0. Now, if we move forward 4 years, we overcame this problem. Lots of things happened. We brought in customers. I built some resiliency. We had a company that was interested to buy us. We did all the due diligence. They looked at our bank account. They talked to our employees, everything. And we were set to sign the LOI, the letter of intent, one day, 6 p.m. 2 hours before signing the LOI, they backed off. They said, we're not, there's no deal. And we were just so ready to do that.
That's actually very forward thinking, if you ask me, because so many people get lost in the problem that they're facing and they freeze up, etc. And having the right perspective is everything. And it's one of the things, there's that saying, what is it? It's perception is reality to the person holding the perception. And it's true. Like how someone sees you is how they perceive you, and that's reality to them. They might be totally wrong. Same thing, how you perceive a problem and how you approach a problem is going to depend. The outcome is going to depend on that. So, your book is called The Inside Out Entrepreneur. What does that really mean?
Very simple. That entrepreneurship starts from within, from inside, and that requires the way that I call certain conditioning. Think of it this way, Mike. You're climbing a mountain. If you go and talk to any mountaineer before they start their journey, they have to do certain conditioning: physical, mental, emotional, and so many other things. Even to the extent that they need to go and talk to their family, because in some cases it's a really super dangerous, journey. If you watch the movie Everest, right, you would know what I mean. So entrepreneurship is the same thing. Before you get started with the journey, because it's a really tough and unforgiving journey, you need to condition yourself.
So you mentioned in your book that your mindset became your greatest entrepreneurial asset. So how does a founder's mindset ripple out to their team, investors, and possibly even their customers?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. And also, so for me, if I go back, that also got reflected, the negative mindset and the positive mindset, both of them will be reflected in your journey and will impact everyone around you. I remember in the first 2 years, because I was really negative, thinking limited and so on, I wasn't able to make any really good decisions. Even the hiring, I was looking, what's the cheapest? Not necessarily what's the best. I was always thinking about when are we going to run out of money, rather than thinking of with my co-founder, how can we make more money? How can we really keep the company afloat? So the mindset is going to impact how you make your decisions and how you even communicate with everyone every day. And that automatically is going to be reflected when you do it over and over and over again. It's going to become a culture. You're going to find you're going to see that your co-founder is asking the same questions. Your employees are also asking same questions, same wrong questions that you had. But if it's the other way around, okay, there is a challenge, and you bring everyone in and you tell them, okay, guys, we have this challenge. We need to think about how can we get out of it? How can we convert it into an opportunity? Now, you see, your mindset now is going to reflect that into reflect how your team is thinking. It's gonna start with you, and then it's gonna basically reflect that. I'll tell you a story from AWS. I worked at Amazon, and there, in one of the all hands meetings, a lady asked Jeff Bezos, and she told him, "We have all those leadership principles, around always right and the frugality and the customer first and so on." And he told her, she asked him, why shouldn't we add, something also that is more explicit and more and easier for anyone to understand, like integrity? Why shouldn't we have integrity as part of our leadership principles? And Jeff Bezos actually stayed silent for a few seconds, and then he answered back, and he's back and said, I think this is a very low standard for us to go after. Let's assume that everyone will have integrity. We do not need to mention this as part of our leadership principles. What we really need to focus on is how do we get everyone different by elevating, our standard, by making sure that we're focused on the things that would make this company different.
That whole concept of what you're, like, for instance, if you went through a period of negative mindset and you verbalize that, the whole concept of how it affects your partners, your team, your investors, it's kind of mind blowing when you think about it. That the words you're using, your attitude, the way you react to situations, people are watching, and they're making decisions about you and your business based off of all of that. So I think that's a really important thing for people to remember. That how you act and how you speak, it affects other people and what they think about, their job. If they're working with you, what their job is like. Maybe they worry that you're going out of business. I was telling someone recently, they had one of my jobs in the past was working at a startup. And one of the things we do here in our businesses is we're very transparent about how the business is doing every month. Because, I showed up to work one day, the doors were just closed, and they're like, sorry, we're out of business now. And you're like, well, it would have been nice to get at least a few days notice of this. I don't want to just show up to work and find out. So that's why I vowed never to do that to my employees. So you mentioned in your book, though, that there was a moment you couldn't get out of bed for a week. So what pulled you back from the edge?
The first 2 years, again, those first 2 years, because of the negative, I was going into that spiral. Negative spiral, if you will. And one of the things when I was reading about psychology, there is in our heads, we usually go through what's so-called the thoughts emotions loop. When an event takes place and you perceive that event, the first thing, actually, believe it or not, that happens inside is that there are certain emotions that get triggered. And most of the time, especially in business, if that event is unfavorable, those are negative emotions. Then what happens? Those negative emotions come from your subconscious. Your conscious get a note of that, and it start generating negative ideas and thoughts. And then those negative ideas and thoughts feed your subconscious and more negative emotions. And then you go over and over and over again. And what happened is, and that's exactly what happened with me at that point, you start confusing the reality with what's happening in your head. So if you believe that my company is going to shut down, or I'm going to fail, it's just thoughts in your head. But at a certain point, because it gets repeated that much, you take it as a reality. Okay, you're going to fail. As the other definition of it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So that's exactly what happened with me. I was 2 years always thinking, I'm going to fail. I'm going to run out of money. Something bad is going to happen. And then all of that caught up with me. It's not just a single emotion. I would say hundreds and hundreds and thousands of ideas and thoughts. I tried actually to do some simple statistic, and I did some research even about that. How many thoughts do we generate in our head each day? You'll be surprised by the number. If you make a wild guess, Mike.
I mean, a million keeps coming in my head, but I don't think it's that many. Maybe it is.
It's in hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Now imagine if those thoughts with the emotions are all negative or mostly negative. We know that there is a connection between your mind and body. Think of now how this is going to suppress your body and impact you. That's exactly what happened to me. And I said, at that point, enough is enough. That, that I love being an entrepreneur and I really want to build that company. But if I'm not able to do that, no one else is going to be able to do it. I need to really fix myself and make sure that I can do it in a healthy way.
So that kind of brings to mind, like, why do you think most founders don't talk about their low points until it's too late?
Because sometimes, this is what's interesting about entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs, they believe that they can take things in their hand and change it themselves, and that's what really makes them special. And this is something that we should not suppress. We should definitely encourage, because an entrepreneur is someone who sees a problem and no one else is able to solve it properly. And they say, you know what, I'm going to solve it. I'm going to fix that problem. So that actually makes them or give them the illusion that they can solve anything, including themselves, if they feel that they're broken. And as a result of that, unfortunately, also sometimes it's becoming something. It's becoming a norm within the entrepreneurial community. You do not need to talk about. You do not need to be vulnerable in front of others. I remember actually one friend told me this. I was in a meeting with one of our VCs, and that guy, he became a friend later on. Was there, and I was telling them about some of my personal challenges, and how my wife is definitely living the highs and lows of my startup with me, and all of that. And he actually, a few months after that, he told me, "Look, Mo, maybe you shouldn't have talked with them about that. They're not your friends, and maybe you should you should just have kept that for yourself."
So Silicon Valley has this phrase, "Sleep is for the weak." What's the dumbest thing you've ever done because you thought burnout was a badge of honor?
Is this one exactly? I don't think that this is, there's a term for that, right? There's they call the hustle porn, right? Where, they want you to believe that, look, you need to wake up every day at 4 a.m., sleep, midnight, just keep working. That's not right. You can run fast, right? But what if you're running fast in the wrong direction? Just at the opposite of where you should be going. Yeah, you're running fast. Sure. But you're just getting away from where you should be. And that's what happened with me at the beginning. Actually, my business, improved significantly when I slowed down. Because now I was able to think. I'll ask everyone to do this exercise. I love walking in nature. Okay. And here's one experiment that I did myself. Each one of us would have a typical pace in walking. Just be conscious about it one day and just slow your speed down into half. Just walking, slower than what you usually used to do. Here's what you're going to notice. You're going to notice more sounds in nature. You're going to notice more things around you. I'm not talking only about the enjoyment. Of course, we're going to enjoy it more. But there's one thing here that I noticed. The picture around me became more crisp. I became more aware of what's behind me, or what's around me, right? Same thing in business. When you slow down sometimes, you see things more clearly.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as you were saying it, and I could see that working, where just changing your normal pace a little bit would have you looking at life a little bit differently and around your surroundings a little bit differently. But when you said that, things became more clear, it's almost like you kind of got your camera was a little out of focus, and you turned the dial and you got it, you got it more into focus. That's an interesting, it's a really interesting point.
Exactly.
So can you share a time when not working was actually the smartest business move that you made? Because of course we're talking here about how people, they tell you got to work, and it's all hustle culture. And clearly you've come to the realization that that's a bad way to do business. Yeah. So, what's a time when not working was like a good idea?
Yeah, absolutely. I share something close enough to that. Here's one thing that I decided to do, after those rough times. I decided to, when I plan my year, I start planning my vacations, and then I plan my business around it. It's not the other way around. And that was actually the best thing I did for myself and for my family. Because now first of all, I was conscious about when exactly do I need breaks. So you need a break every 3 months, longer break, 3 days to 1 week. That's definitely something that you need. And I've been doing this for years now. And that actually impacted me a lot. That was, I would say, one of the best decisions that I made about my personal life, and improved the quality of my decisions.
Yeah, I have. Since we've moved here to Vegas, it's been 3 years now, and we've kind of moved towards a lot of content creation business. And a lot of the time I spend editing videos, and I'll have days where I've had a tough week of meetings or a lot of these interviews, and I need to sit down and do a video edit for our YouTube channel. And I get to a point and I'll just be like, so I'm not feeling this today. I'm just not feeling this today. And I'll put it aside. And, of course, at first, when I first started doing that, I'd worry, oh my gosh, now I've got to get this finished tomorrow. But I'd come back tomorrow, and what was taking me hours the previous day would take minutes. And when your mindset now is ready to tackle the project that's at hand, you don't have a problem with it. I mean, I'll give you another example. We recently switched my office. So my desk used to be on that side of the office, and now it's over here. And my wife wanted to do it at a certain time of the day. And I said, let's wait until after our afternoon meeting. Oh, but what if we run out of time? No, we're not going to run out of time. And we did it in like 2 hours. Probably would have taken, if we had given ourselves 6, it would have taken 6. If we gave ourselves 8, it would have taken 8. But because we did it at the end of the day and we wanted to eat dinner and get on with our evening, and I think we even had a hockey game that we were scheduled to go to, it just got done faster. And I think it's just a testament to your brain saying, all right, I'm going to tackle this task when I'm ready to tackle the task. And we always try to force it. And so I love that advice. So this has been an amazing conversation. I really appreciate your insights on mindset, because that is something that leaders lack, if you ask me, is the understanding that it's okay to show a little bit of weakness, and it's okay to ask questions, and it's okay to tell people about your struggles, because how are you supposed to get help if you don't? I mean, I know, like, we live in a country where if you tell somebody you're seeing a therapist, they kind of, and the reality is seeing a therapist sometimes just means having another person that you can talk through your problems with. It doesn't really mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means, hey, I'm on a journey, and it's an emotional journey, a spiritual journey, and I'm coming to somebody for help. So why don't you let our listeners know if they want to connect with you, find out more about what you do, let them know how to find you.
Absolutely. So I have an online community for of entrepreneurs. It's called boundlessfounders.co, and also they can go to my own personal website, Mohamed F as in Frank Ahmed.com, and I'm happy to connect with entrepreneurs. I always enjoy talking to entrepreneurs, just hearing their stories, especially how they feel from inside about any event. Or anything that is taking place in their journey, and making sure that they grow. And what I believe in, we can definitely change, how entrepreneurship is done, one entrepreneur at a time. That's what I believe in, and it's going to happen from within.
I love it. I love the passion for that. I really do. So again, I really do appreciate your time here today, spending time with me on a Friday morning, and it's been great getting to know you.
Thank you very much, Mike. It's been a pleasure talking with you, and thank you very much for having me.
Well, thanks everyone for being here for another episode of Gaining the Technology Leadership Edge. We have new episodes every Wednesday morning, 8 a.m. Pacific time, here on LinkedIn and YouTube. So hopefully we'll see you back here again next week for another exciting conversation around technology and leadership. Until then, have a great week.